another live stream. I'm just playing around one June pad modulation wheel 1 it's called. And so yeah, the modulation wheel adds an additional modulation. It's a pad sound with a movement in the XY, which is tempo based. The mode is free, so that's why you see this little dot keep on running. So yeah, hello everybody, I hope everybody is fine. Today it's a little bit better with my webcam. I did uninstall the webcams because last week, maybe you remember, I had this problem with the keyboard. You can see my hand moving in the upper area where the keyboard is. That's the 930 webcam from Logitech, and the one pointing at my face is the 920. It's a very tricky one with the Logitech, so I don't know what fixed it, but I uninstalled, reinstalled, and now it works a little bit better, and there's no latency, so that's good. So yeah, it's Go2 special today again, because we have Go2 month this month, and just is a very nice patch. You see here the dot flying around, and the mode is free. Free means that it does reset the moment you hit play, so that you have a nice MIDI time based setting. And if you press play, you would see that it jumps back from the start. Here it is. And then additionally, so I made it the LFO. You see, had this 1/8 note, quantized beat, 1/8 note, tempo based sync. And when I open the modulation wheel, you see modulation wheel amount control. So the LFO, free LFO modulates the filter frequency. So you get this. Of course, each note has its own LFO, so it's a... So multiple LFOs, and you see the LFOs is some poly mode, which is a polyphonic LFO, so each note has its own LFO. So if I hit a little bit later the other note, you will hear that that one has its own tempo sync. Okay, I need to open the modulation wheel to add its modulation. Second one. And if I play it in a different timing, it goes in between. So one thing to solve it is to use the mono mode. In mono mode, each time when you hit a new note, so you have only one LFO for all the notes. Then it re-triggers if I hit a new note. So it depends on your goal. I think maybe mono would be better for this preset. I just think that is. So if I start playing. So you see, it's much nicer if you, so without this modulation wheel, you have only the movement, which is up here, which is also addressed to the filter. You can see filter frequency still used. But by opening the modulation wheel, I get this additional LFO. And that's cool as a dynamic, pad sound, which is wobbly or repeating. Without the modulation. So that's cool for it with Go2. So the XY is a very creative tool. So that's the difference with the LFO. If you have the different timing or the play modes. We call them play modes. So polyphonic, each note has its own LFO. Then it's open it again. But then if you're a little bit too late, you could. But if you play on time, you will not hear that much of a difference if you play compared to mono. And mono, each time you hit another note, it re-triggers because it's just one LFO. And free running is essentially, it keeps on playing no matter how you play. And then you hear that it doesn't reset. Then it starts on the first, on your start of your host computer, and that's the, and I see it doesn't jump to free mode. Why it doesn't go to free mode? Okay, I don't know. So let me show you a bit more about the XY. So let me see if we have another preset here. Yeah, here we have the same system, and essentially, I mean, I just mentioned the LFO with poly, mono mode, and free mode, but the same you will appear here, down here in the XY. You also will see that we have a polyphonic free mode and a mono mode. Now it's polyphonic, so each note, each voice has its own movement. So this note, the other one, which is the second one, second dot, third dot. And you also can do some very nice things. Of course, it's now tempo sync to one bar. Most of the presets, they are tempo sync. So even now, if you play this one, it's pretty tempo based inside the music. And then mono mode here again is each time you hit a note, it does re-trigger, because then the XY will be used for all the notes you play. You see, each time re-triggers. And then we have the free mode, which doesn't work. Why not? I'm not sure why that is. Just jump to poly, but not to free mode. Maybe we have a bug in the version I'm using, at least. So I'm not sure which it is. Yeah. So so free mode, it keeps on running. So we had that one, I think maybe in this one. No, that's polyphonic. So let's go to the next preset. Oh, this one has free running, but doesn't any movement. You also can do it static, of course. That's of course with the XY pad, you have a live mode, which you can draw, move around. And of course, yeah, you see around this XY, we have already the X morph, so that the XY changes the morphing down here. So essentially you don't see it here moving, but that's what it does externally. So we work on having in the near future a animated dials that you see. But you still can also address here the other things which are freely selectable, but we have some defaults here. So frequency from the filter. Yeah, so this is the live mode. By the way, if you double click on the dot, it goes to the neutral center position. And then of course you can record the movement. And then you press play to play it back. While the other thing is, of course, the amount of points. It's 128. you can change that. You can say, okay, let's make it 8 points, because maybe you want to edit them, and you press simply here edit, and you see the 8 points, and then you can tweak it around, and it's non-destructive. So you always come back to the original recording of 128 and even change that, but that's the 128 steps it records your movement. So then if I would say, okay, I only want to have 2, or even 8, 16. So the XY, that's the targets. Default targets you find here on the right hand side. You see X goes to the frequency from the filter, and Y to the volume. And then we got, the X to the volume also. So 2 for the X and 2 for the Y movement, and Y it changes the high pass filter. So let's put on the high pass filter. Now you hear it on the high pass filter with the Y, and the Y could also be high pass filter Q, or you could select simply something else, what you want to modulate. So that's if you don't think, oh no, not the frequency, but take something else. Maybe you want to take move the spread. So that's even possible to modulate the spread. The oscillator spread makes from the oscillator a multiple oscillator. It's a bit hard to hear, maybe the other way around. Here now. So now if the Y is down, it gets more spread. So this one opens then. It gets dirty, isn't it? So the XY is very, very, one of the power things of the Go2. So you can address here 2 destinations already to the Y movement. So the vertical movement and the horizontal. No, I say it wrongly. The X is for the vertical movement. No, horizontal movement, and the Y is for the vertical movement. These 2 are for the vertical movements. And you can have negative amounts so that it goes the other way below the in a negative direction. So yeah, you need to experiment with that. And we have in most presets you see sometimes it's used, sometimes not used. And of course the X morphing changes this parameter here. And a Y morphing changes if there is a Y movement. So that's this parameter changing. So it's not animated. So if it would be animated, it would be moving around like this. But that's for future update. So the XY, important, this edit button here. You have also some command here. So where you can say, make a circle, so it creates a circle for you. All kind of spiral in, spiral out, so preset movements essentially. MIDI latching, that's of course interesting if you have a live setup. So live mode here, this is the live mode, so I need to move the dot manually for changing the sound. But if you would MIDI latch to MIDI, you could say latch XY to a dial, and you see my keyboard up here, the first dial, and then I would latch the second one, latch this one. So then I can use 2 dials. And of course, if you would have an XY pad, you could use an XY pad. So I clear this now. But let me check the chat room here, because yeah, well, we see some interesting talking. Hey, let me see. Clear MIDI, where are you? And that's XY. There you are. Okay, everybody. acid rave style in Go2? Yeah, should be possible. Yeah, original 303 has one oscillator, so the spread in the Go2, so this one should be close, because the spread, if we go to the, let's go to a default preset. Here it is. Okay. Spread makes, now you hear one oscillator, but if you use spread, it splits up. Essentially, you hear now 3 oscillators. But one stays in the middle, one is down tuned a little bit, and one is up tuned a little bit. So one stays in the middle, one goes a little bit down in pitch, and one a little bit up in pitch. And that's the spread. So if you have closed the spread, you have one oscillator, and that will be a TB303, because the TB303 has only one oscillator, and it can only produce a square waveform or a saw waveform. And maybe we have some TB303 type of sounds. Let me see if we have something. No. Not in this one. Now let's go back to the introduction bank and create ourselves a TB3 type of thing. Okay, back to the default. And of course we need then the sequencer. Sequence we put on. We put in the sequencer mode. I use the key entry. The key entry is very nice. Then you can play your keyboard, and the root key is the C3. Now do a minor. Just play some notes. Okay, then our key entry I stop and play it. Then of course you need to have the tie. Okay, a little bit. You have a slide. It's not very exciting. So this was a little bass, but then of course you want to get it dirty, and then of course a distortion comes into picture. Let me see if I have a little bit. Maybe, yeah, another filter. Take the other one. And if you go high with the resonant, and you could try the speed. Maybe it's nicer. No. Not good. And of course you need a little bit of delay. Distortion is important to make it scream. wheel for opening demo. Oh, that's dirty. More distortion. And gets even dirtier. And it gets, it's not fully 100 TB303 like, but that's a little bit in the air. And what you could do is use the high-pass filter to make it even dirtier. Then you lose, of course, low. And gets then very dirty. Waveform, and this is the envelope, less envelope. So it's a little bit, it's of course not fully the TB303, but that's a little bit in this style. And you see, especially the distortion is important to get this edgy sound. Otherwise, it's too sweet. Should I save this one for you, maybe? Or Alex is asking for this. In the meantime, I have to pick up something. Alex, maybe. I could save this one. Let's see if I have a dedicated folder for this. Live stream, 98 live stream. Okay, I could save preset in folder. Then I pick the right folder. Then I could make it downloadable down below. So live stream kind of 303. So this is, it's the bass sound, kind of 303. But you can increase the distortion. To get it dirty. And of course you also can say, okay, this is nice, but let's go totally strange, and you pick one of the other waveforms, the spectrum waveforms, and there's a bell type sound. This can be interesting. And you could add the sub. Oh, this is a nice one. Yeah, I like that one. So kind of, I write this, save this one also, save preset as kind of 3 DG. Go, so 2 presets for this evening. I saw that I have a live stream folder here. Go2 hi-hat, Go2 bass drum. That's a nice 90s bass drum. Yeah, Go2 is a great synthesizer. You can go any direction with that. And as you can see, it's a very nice bass drum. Here the free envelope is used to control the pitch envelope. So the free envelope is here. It's very fast. So that's one of the differences with very old software synthesizers. They don't have this very fast envelopes because they are only calculated at a given time. The refresh rate, we call that. And then you have not the option to make these kind of sounds. And we have, of course, ultra fast envelopes. And you can make also percussive sounds. So you have a bass drum, you can even made some 90s bass drum sounds. So this is the, I think they might be in the full version. Distortion bass, chord thing. Yeah, this preset well could be in the factory sound set already. So let me check the chat room. Okay, somebody says pitch down 1 octave. From which sound? No, XY pads, you only had a kind of XY thing on the Prophet VS. That one had a stick, so a stick up, and then you could move it around. That was a little bit of a XY, but not a pad, but more an XY movement where you could go between 4 waveforms. Of course, now with Go2, you go between. It's a modulation, essentially. It's a very sophisticated modulation. It's just like an LFO or an envelope, but this, you can draw your own movement. That's the interesting thing about it. Any more Blue 3 demo this evening? Not really, because I had no time to create some new presets. So we were so busy with the graphics. So we hopefully can do this next week. Okay. So let's go back. So that was with the TB3 type of sound. Yeah, we have plenty of good sounds anyhow inside of Go2. Even weird things. And Jamal's very good for. So here, see the waveform. Waveform, by the way, if you use symmetry modulation, essentially, let's go back and explain that part of Go2. If we go back to the default, you have this waveform display, and sometimes you see it moving, and you don't think, wow, comes the movement, because you see that the dot is static, and you still hear movement. But the readout is essentially the waveform readout. So if I go here to a square, here you see the square. And I can change the symmetry. Essentially what you do on a Uno 60, you know, with the pulse width, or Jupiter 8. This is very analog. And this you can automate using a LFO, and we call it symmetry modulation. On all the cylinders, you will see pulse width modulation, because there you only can use it on the pulse width, which is very effective. So when I open this speed, so now you see the movement is simply the waveform modulated with this symmetry modulation. Therefore you call it ASMod. So in Predator 3 we also call it ASMod. It's because you not only can use it on the pulse or the square waveform, but you also can pick other waveforms, which very often can be interesting. On the triangle, not that exciting, but on the resonance here, And by the way, just playing, it's a res waveform essentially. If you even could use the velocity, so down here in the modulation matrix, I could say, just as a gesture, also could say velocity control from the oscillator, the symmetry. And you get some interesting sounds. And just try that out, for instance. So there, now it's the velocity controlling this symmetry. So this symmetry dial is controlled by velocity. Now double click, make it goes back to 0. So if I use the symmetry modulation, because the speed here is essentially an LFO. So that's what you see movement with many presets. You see the waveform moving. Well, and it's, of course, also could be that you change here from waveforms. So now you see the symmetry and you mix between it. You get some interesting sounds. You blend now between two very different waveforms. That's of course cool. So even without moving the dot, you can do a lot of waveform movement already by using the symmetry. Of course, if we make this sound more sweet. Shall I save this one also? Because it became a nice sound. So let's save this one also in the other folder. Save in folder, live stream. So we have already 3 presets to download. If you own Go2, you can, in the info section, you can download the zip, copy the presets over into a bank of your own, or in a bank you can recall that you drop them inside of them and then you will find them back. So bank folder, of course, and then I put them in the live stream. So I will call this sim modulations. Sim mod synth. So then you see it's about the symmetry. Nice. We can make modulation wheel. Yeah, it became a nice sound. What I also need to do, of course, is check the volume before I upload, but that I will do once we are ready with a live stream. Yeah, they talk about this XY pad and this stick. Yeah, essentially, I think a stick which you can move around is essentially a kind of XY pad. Name it Overtone at the Brink of Autumn. Yeah, that's too long for the preset name. That will not fit because it will truncate it. Okay. So let's show you another thing which is cool inside Go2 is of course the play mode. So going back to the introduction preset, I go back to the default preset. We have here, of course, one single waveform, but we have the unison mode. And the unison mode is that you hit one note and essentially it plays more voices for you. So for instance, 3. Then essentially it plays 3 notes and you can spread that and detune that left-right. Yeah, that's very nice stereo. Essentially make it a more polyphonic, more oscillator sound. But we added more. So we also added here in the unison, essentially it's not unison, the octave feature. We have, and then chords. Or minor, so let's see some. Then you're gonna make some 90s techno. So what they often did at that time, simply play a chord and sample that, in my opinion, in their sampler. So that's also cool. So you don't have to play the chords, but you just use one finger. So, and then of course this play mode makes that these settings here, you also can use in the arpeggiator. I showed that last time, that for each tab you could use then a different chord. Or so now it's the it's major, minor. So if I put on the arpeggiator, it would play only. And I could say, because here the chord says, or unison chord says, set, which means it's this mode here. This unison mode is chord set is as this one here, the unison, this minor. So, and now I can change it, for instance, on step 3, instead of using set, which is the minor I picked, I can say, okay, use 3 octaves. Or pick here another one, a minor 7. And here pick another one, 2 octaves. And even select none, just one note. Which plays the first note, which is then on the left side. That's interesting. Or a fifth. So that's the cool thing about Go2. There's none of our other synthesizers which has this option that you control, let's say, the unison mode or the chord mode here. So unison, we only had place for one word. So unison, maybe we should change it to unison/chord to make it more showing what it does. But so that's a very cool thing of Go2. Okay, now I clicked wrongly, and then you get the back panel. Okay, so maybe somebody has a question about Go2 while I'm doing showing all kind of things. So the last thing I did show you now was the unison mode, which is also has the option to control and select chords, which you again can select here in the ARP in this row. Set meaning that it takes the minor, which is up selected here, and then you can do some other things. And you see, if you select the chord, you see that detuned is fade out, because, yeah, you cannot detune a minor. That detune only works if you have a unison. And so I think Go2 is very cool for minimal techno because of these type of typical grooves. So that's just as a example with the play mode here. Yeah, you see when you press activate here, the arpeggiator, you see that it also activates it here. Yeah, then we have the option here, but I did show it last time, that you can also select dials for having, instead of the graphic envelopes, you have the options for dials. Exponential envelopes will say means that it's default. You see here the decay curve is exponential, which is good for punchy sounds and also for the release. But if you click this one, you get linear. And linear envelopes are nice for pad sounds. So if I would go back to the pad folder, most likely. Yeah, you see here as a linear. Using only a saw. Hey, Philip Boss. Philip, no, again, my cushion is gone. I have this little cushion for my wrist, you know, and each time it drops on my floor. Yeah, that's happening during the live stream. Yeah, Philip Barski, I hope you pronounce your name very well. He is he delivered for us for Blue 3. He delivered the samples of the. Oh, okay. Let me show you if I select now. Okay. Now I need to watch out that it doesn't pop up in the wrong screen. Yes, you don't see it. That's good, because it's a beta version. From Philip, we did acquire. He did sample for us. This Santur. Okay, I'm looking here. Sorry for the interruption. And so, Philip, you can hear it already. So let me play it for you. We also have a Celtic harp, which is from a EMU library, which I could acquire. But this one is... So sorry for being so slow, guys. I need to... This is the Santur. So let's play. So with a little bit of reverb. And the cool thing is, we so Philip is in the room where he did sample this in his studio in Israel for us, and we also have a Celtic harp, and the Celtic harp is another one because Philip also plays beautiful harp, and this is the harp. But what I did, one preset with Blue 3, which gonna be is harp and Santur combined, and that made a very a nice sound. So essentially we combine in Blue 3 two samples. It's the Santur and a Celtic harp. Then you get this sound. Very nice. of course, originally it doesn't play that loud, or so slow, so low. And that's cool. That's, of course, and there's also, it's for getting the feel for it, the combination. So this is the harp together with a Vox sound. So what you hear is now Blue 3. Because, yeah, Philip is in the room. Celtic harp. Yeah, I pronounce everything very wrong. So don't bother about my pronunciation because I'm Dutch and we have some weird sounds in our language. Yeah, so because Philip is in the room. Maybe Philip, you can share your homepage or this YouTube video you created, where you play, where you sit down with your harp, but you don't play it, but you let the wind go through it, and you added RP verb to it, and then this way it created a very nice ambient sound piece of music essentially. So it was very, very cool. So yeah, so we have this very great sound from Philip inside of it. So I did not much do anyhow from it. Yeah, that was the other sound, was Blue 3. With these sleigh bells. This weird sound in the background. It's a bell. Yeah, but I have a long time. I had issues some time ago with ratcheting. I could not pronounce it, or Sangini. So, but yeah, it's what it is. So yeah, Blue 3, it's very in great progress, but we're doing the so the graphic interface testing still, and then sound creation. But so you heard already some sounds now from the Celtic harp and the Santur. I hope I pronounce it well. Santur, which is a kind like a dulcimer. You know, you have this little spoons, a very narrow spoon type of things, and you hit it on the strings. Very nice sound, and I think it's great if you combine that one with the synthesis. So it's not necessary to be not planned really to make it as a fully reproduction of that sound, but use the timbre to create new sounds. That's the main plan with Blue 3. Okay, let's go back now to yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you never know how sounds will be in music with synth users. Oh, cool! You did that already. Hey, they blend perfect. Yeah, I noticed by accident that just by trying it out, you sometimes run into very cool sounds. One example I always give with Blue 2 was the sound from Jumal, which is a fantastic sound. So here's Blue 2, where if you go to the introduction bank, and it's the Susuris preset. He uses the chord memory here. You don't see it, it's down here, play, chord memory played. And what I did is simply shut down some things, and suddenly I think one of the oscillator. This one remains then. So only one oscillator then. I suddenly I thought, yeah. You have a very nice spacey sound. Just by a preset, just shutting down one of the, or in this case, almost all the other oscillators, except for oscillator B, you get a great sound. So it not always needs the case that you must add it fully from the start. Sometimes just by shutting down, taking another filter type, shutting down things, you get some very interesting new sounds. I think in the Fun Bank I had a... Where was it again? Oh, this one. This is a very nice FM to XY bottle. This is a bottle used here. FM sound and a bottle. So that's all about Blue. So it's combining synthesis together to get new sounds. So this is the FM to XY bottle. But okay, that about Blue 2 and Blue 3. So we hope to have it at the end of November. As it looks now, that's very realistic that towards the second or third week of November, we will have Blue 3. So the sound engine works perfectly. So everything goes well. And of course, it's a totally different beast than Go2. Go2, with Go2, you do different stuff. We just play the pad sound now. It's very nice pad, and you could add the phaser to it, and you get a really So Go2 is a very, very cool synth. It's much more limited than Predator 3 or Blue 2 or a Blade 2. But that's also very often a cool thing because you are limited and you still can do a lot of creative stuff. So limitation makes people creative. That's something it's definitely a fact. Okay. So this is the bank manager. You see, sometimes I put on a star so that you give a sound a star. Yeah, that's also cool. This one is a pad sound, but you see the ARP is used as modulation source. So the ARP is not on because you see in the play mode it's polyphonic. These are little jams inside the Go2. The mode is then not up down for traditional arpeggiator, but as a modulation source. So now it's now, and here you can see slot 1 to 4 is the let me see where the modulation is addressed. ARP velocity to the main volume. So it's the velocity which essentially makes note on, note off, or visible. It's a kind of like a transgate thing. Because, yeah, the velocity is 127, and on step 4, it's gone because it's 0. You see? So yeah, so other very creative. And even if you would go here to, let's say, go back to a pad, and you say, and you can say here, modes, modulation source, and then you could say, okay, here I make some changes to the velocity and address that. So MIDI modulation, I need to modulation velocity here as source and address that one to the filter frequency. Now it's so the ARP is now not playing as an ARP but as a modulation source. Now why different, this goes maybe a bit too fast, so maybe I can do half speed. And maybe I also should use that one, the same again, velocity, ARP velocity, and also on the high pass filter. Then you get really, yeah, that you essentially have a modulation sequencer. That's what is happening. So high pass filter, frequency. Of course, I need to put on the high pass filter and open the modulation. And if I open the Q, oh, a little bit too much resonance. So that's also how you can use then Go2 essentially. Oh, there I already have a bandpass filter. Let me take another filter here. No, it's gone. Yeah, maybe it was not needed to use the high pass filter because essentially I use a bandpass, which is a combined low pass and high pass filter. So I remove this one and try again with the bandpass 12 dB. So maybe here it's a bit mean. Maybe I take here a different waveform. So that's also what you can do. Use the arpeggiator. And maybe this also could work. Let me see if this works nicely. Take the normal speed. Okay, live, this one. It's nicer if there's more movement. Nice on a saw wave. You hear the movements? So this is really like an analog patch. And it's MIDI time based, of course. Yeah, so that's the modulation. Maybe I should save this also simply as an example to show what you can do outside the normal things which you maybe might expect inside Go, that it does a bit more on that point. So save preset in folder, and then I make this preset for you available in a few minutes when I close down the live stream. Here we go. Arp as mod, I call that one. Arp as mod. So we have then today, we have Arp as mod. We have the kind of 303 digital one. So and the kind of 303, where you can open the distortion and make it dirty. So I think that were the ones we used here. So kind of 303, kind of 303 digital, which had the spectrum waveform use. Sounds a bit more squarey. And then of course the Arp's modulation. Okay, cool. Okay, let me check because we're a little bit over the time, but it doesn't matter. When was your first time you did something with a synth? Was this question towards me? Well, then it was when I was 15, if it was a question addressed to me. Okay, cool, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you find it interesting. And see you next week. Hopefully we have some more Blue 3 sounds for you to show, not to show, to let you hear them, because I'm not sure if the graphics are already there. So, but that moves on very well. And of course, the sounds I can play them for you, just as I did in this live stream. So, thanks for watching, and see you next week. Bye.